I want to touch base on one subject right now that can be considered by a lot of people controversial. Okay. A lot of people don't want to touch it, but in my show here, Sports Talking Sports, we cover all the bases and we don't shy away from things. So I want to get into very briefly the issue of transgender in sports. Especially you're a coach, you coach women, transgender women in sports. In my question to kind of delve into it, and let me just be honest in saying I don't know much about it. I've heard arguments both sides. I really don't, I just don't know enough to even form an opinion on myself here with it. But have you ever coached against a team that had a transgender athlete? And if you have, how did that work out? And number two, would you recruit a transgender female to be on your team? And how do you think your players would react to that, or about somebody like that possibly taking a spot from somebody? Do you think they'd be welcomed in? Do you think that they'd be shunned a little bit, taking someone's spot? And then you can talk to me about, maybe the dangerous effects of this, where, someone coming in and just in general, how it affects the game, and where do you think this is going with this?
Well, the biggest concern, okay, Les, the biggest concern about transgender athletes is the transgender female athlete, okay?
And that's transitioning from a male into a female, correctly?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, a male transgendering to a female, okay? Because it becomes an unsafe situation, all right? No matter how we look at it. Let me first talk about the human side of it.
Sure.
Everybody has their rights. Kids that identify as the opposite sex, want to become the opposite sex, trans to an opposite sex, should still have the same rights as everybody else.
I totally agree.
But when it comes to the scientific side of it, okay, there's safety. No matter how you look at it, no matter how you think about it, when a male trans to a female, they still have a male body. Males are born with bigger hands, bigger muscles, bigger bones, bigger heart, bigger brain, okay? And they develop at a much different rate. Boys develop at puberty. I mean, females usually develop earlier. They reach puberty earlier than males on the average. But the male will grow and become stronger, faster, thicker, bigger, everything, more powerful.
Right.
So when you're thinking about a transgender female now competing as a female with a man's body, it becomes a very, very difficult topic. And it's not fair. And no matter how you look at transgender, Les, there's like no winner. There is no winner. I mean, at New Jersey City University, like I said in the first inning, we talked about how we look at you as a person, the holistic being, the part of you being important to us as a person, not as a student, not as an athlete. Now, we put all three together and work it very well, but you come first to us. I'm a strong believer in a happy student athlete is a productive student athlete. So when you think about it, would I recruit a transgender athlete? In baseball and softball, it's not as relevant as in football or even wrestling or any of the big-time contact sports, even though the ball will come off the bat a lot quicker with a male hitting it than a female hitting it, okay? But then the science tells us that when a male trans to a female, okay, they start withdrawing the testosterone and implementing the female growth hormone, which I believe is estrogen, okay? And there are other hormones too. So what happens is they try to equal it out, but it will never, ever be equal. And as far as your question about how my kids would feel, I'll guarantee you right now that my girls on my team would have no problem with it. The people that would be their parents, okay? That's who would have the problem with it. They understand that all people were created equal, whether you were born as a female and became a male or vice versa. You are a person, you're a human being, and you are equal to everybody else. You'll be given the same opportunity. Now, as a coach, that's the way I would present it to my kids. That's the way I would present it to the to the transgender athlete. You're going to go through some hard times. I mean, think about this. Now, it's off topic a little bit, but think about what Jackie Robinson went through coming into a white league as the only black player, all the harassment that he and his wife and family had to take. He was a hero to everybody. Okay, he was a hero to everybody.
Tremendous role model.
In my opinion, transgender athletes are heroes. They've done what they wanted to do. They were not afraid to do it. They probably had to go through counseling. I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but I have a very personal, close person to me that trans, okay? And they were a female transgending to a male athlete. They were a great athlete at the lacrosse level. They were a goalkeeper and female as a female. All state. Going into her senior year, she trans to a male. Okay. She went out for the boys team, won the position, and was blackballed. Okay?
How does a coach do that? How does that happen? How do they blackball them? How does that happen?
Oh, it happens by people being prejudiced. You know, in this situation, it's not an unsafe thing. She's not as strong as those other two goalies, but some of the things that apply to goalkeeping, reflexes, quickness, vertical leap, she had all of that. All right. I knew this kid when she was a little kid. I knew from day one that she was going to be one of the best female athletes ever to play in that state. Just watching her gait, watching her throw, watching her catch, watching her run. Okay. I had no idea at the time that she identified as a male, but hey, you know what? To each their own. And it's tough. It's a tough situation because, like I said, there's no win here. Nobody wins, you know? I mean, the swimmer, I think from Princeton or Penn, broke every Ivy League record there is. What do you think those girls on the other teams that she was competing against? Maybe the girls on her team loved it because they won every meet, but those are the people competing. And then there were two athletes from Connecticut, two boys, identified as females. They didn't trans. They went through no procedures to change their sex. They just identified, and Connecticut let them run. They broke every state record there was. They won every meet. What do you think those girls that were trying to get into colleges were getting beat now, coming in third, okay, instead of first, because two boys were running against them?
No.
So there's no win here. There's really no win. It's a very, very tough, and it is political. It's very political.
Now, Jack, let me ask you this, because I've heard about this. Again, I'm not going to plead ignorance, but I just don't know enough about the subject. But I've heard that there are certain regulations regarding states that will allow transgender to compete, and some will not.
I'll tell you the stats on that. 27 states have no rules about transgender athletes competing.
Okay.
But each district can argue it, and it will be heard by a committee. Okay. There are 18 states that will not allow female transgender athletes to compete, and there are 8 states that will not allow any transgender athlete, male or female, to compete. Now, what the standard is right now, what is being said, okay, and this is something that will probably be passed in the next few years, hopefully sooner, but to settle everything, to get it down, and then you deal with all the, the emotional problems. But what the rule of thumb is going to be is that you're going to have to participate at the sex you were born. Now, that becomes unfair, too, because here I trans from a male to a female, and I'm now being forced to compete against men, and vice versa. It's not fair to the people I'm competing against, and it's not fair to me. So when you think about it, and I said it before, there's no win here. There's really no win. My thought is this, okay? Years and years and years ago, and I tried to look this up, and I tried to get some background on this, handicaps were not allowed to compete in the Olympics. They were blackballed, okay? So what did they do? They started a Special Olympics. And it's one of the biggest organizations in the United States today. Now, as more transgender athletes start participating and wanting to participate again, maybe start up different units, small little units in each state for transgender athletes. Let them compete, okay, against each other. And you know what? I don't like barring it. I don't like saying that they should be eliminated from any competition. But if you're going to try to stay fair and safe, it might be the only thing to do.
No,
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right.
You know something, Jack? It's an opinion. It's a debatable subject. There's just so much going on about it, and I think that it is so new and it's an infancy that we're talking about all this. That I think that in the next 5 to 6, 7, 8, 9 years, I think the picture will become a little bit clearer, and I think there will be avenues for everyone to compete fairly. At least we all hope that, right?